Now, I would like for all of you to imagine your dream house. And now imagine how long it would take for you to have the money and the resources to acquire that dream house. Let that sink in for a while. Now, what I'm going to tell you today is a story about a man called Kyle MacDonald and how he acquired his dream house with only one paperclip. He used Craigslist to do trades in order to build up from a paperclip to a full-scale house. Now, this idea might seem ridiculous or impossible. Even he thought at the time this idea is something that would not work. However, it only took him 1 year to accomplish this goal. What he did was he bartered his way 14 times, one item to another. He started off with the paperclip, and later he acquired the pen. Then he acquired a keg barrel of beer. Soon after that, he acquired a snowmobile. After the snowmobile, he acquired a flight ticket. And after the flight ticket, he also acquired a rent for a house. Now, you would think he would stop there because that's a huge leap from paperclip to rent for a house. But no, he did not give up. He continued onwards, and he got a role in a film. Now, that was his last trade before he acquired his dream house. And in exactly 1 year, from the first day to the next day, he acquired his dream house. All of this was possible because of his posting on Craigslist and because of the fuel of the online community and how he broadcasted himself. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about the effects of online community on our globe and what we would do without it. Many of you might know Wikipedia or have heard about Wikipedia. One story is that me and my friends, we were out going to see a film, and we got into a bit of an argument. And this argument was about where was hamburger founded. Now, some of us would think, okay, hamburger, probably in the US, or some people thought, oh, hamburger, Hamburg, so it could be from the city of Hamburg. Now, let's go back in the days and think how people would research that. You'd actually have to go to the library, find the right books, and read through hundreds of pages just to find out where hamburger is from. That's clearly inconvenient. Luckily today, we have something called Wikipedia. So what do? We Googled it, first thing that comes up on our phones, and we found the answer. And yes, the hamburger was founded in Hamburg. So Wikipedia was not always the way we saw it today. Wikipedia has gone through many transformations. First, it was called a company named Newpedia. And Newpedia was founded in the year 2000. And I wanted to compete with your traditional book encyclopedia and bring it up onto the web. At this time, the web was still pretty primitive. We didn't have much resources on the web or advancements, knowledge, and people weren't really using the web as much at that time. And what they did was Newpedia only allowed professionals and only allowed peer-reviewed articles to be written. In 1 year, they wrote 24 articles. And they saw that rate and thought they would never compete against the encyclopedias that way. So what happened the year after, they created something called Wikipedia. Now, Wikipedia existed hand in hand with Newpedia, but it's not the Wikipedia we know today. Wikipedia started off as a forum-based site where people can post articles. And in the exact same time Wikipedia existed for that 1 year that Newpedia created 24 articles, Wikipedia created 1,000 articles. Now, think about that, 24 to 1,000. That is a huge margin of difference. Today, the Wikipedia that we know has over 10 million articles in over 260 languages, beating your physical encyclopedias out there today. And now I'm going to talk about another online resource that some of you might have heard of. Bitcoins. Bitcoins has a large buzz value. People like to talk about Bitcoin because people don't really know much about the Bitcoin. People are just thinking, oh, Bitcoins are cool. Yeah, they're worth a lot of money. I want to get that Bitcoin as well. How do I get it? Originally, Bitcoin was a currency that companies would pay people because what happened was that people would use their computers to calculate formulas. And in return, they receive bitcoins if they could calculate the formulas and solve it. Now, if you would like to mine bitcoins, you will need a very fast computer. So it's very unlikely that any one of us could mine a bitcoin. However, Bitcoin started off as a very low value currency. The advantages Bitcoin had was that it allowed anonymous transactions. So you can buy and sell to people, and no one will know who you bought from or who bought from you. And this creates a security system for these transactions. However, this system was exploited by a company called the Silk Road. Some of you might have heard of the Silk Road. Basically, the Silk Road is like eBay. The only difference is that it transacts illegal goods. That's where people would buy weapons, drugs, and also hitmen, counterfeit IDs. And it was the biggest problem for the governments in the US because they couldn't trace where all the money was going. They couldn't find who were the criminals. And this answers why Bitcoin is so valuable. Because large sums of Bitcoins were used to transact, they are able to increase their value. Today, the Bitcoin is worth 350 euros for one Bitcoin. Now, do remember that this is a huge drop for where it was before, which is around 800 euros. The reason for that was because the Silk Road was eventually shut down. They found out who hosted it, and then they slowly stopped using Bitcoins. However, today, where you can find the use of Bitcoins is to fund any political groups that you would like to support. However, you don't want other people to know that you support them, such as WikiLeaks, for security reasons. Now, here's another community that some of you will probably hear of at some point. Anonymous. They're big. They're the group that makes political impacts today. And they're out there because they will not fight against the people, but they will fight against the government. Anonymous was not always the way it is today. In the past, Anonymous, in 2003 to 2007, was known as a group of people who posted funny pictures on 4chan. And 4chan was the world's largest image board at the time. And they would post images of memes, some of you might have heard them, which are similar jokes of some pictures where people shared in common. So at first they started off as this fun group. Sometimes they would do pranks on people, such as some church talk shows. They would do live streams, and they would have hundreds of people call in and basically fill up their whole connection with pranks. And they would make fun of them online. Surely it's not the best thing they've accomplished, but it did get them more popular. They became more well-known. So what happened was that in 2008, 4chan decided to set a rally against Scientology. And in this picture, you can see where 4chan actually gathered against Scientology. And what happened was they created a posting, and they said, everyone meet at the nearest Scientology church that you know, and we will protest and take them down. And this is the first time 4chan took to the physical world, where they actually do real differences in our world today. And in this event, they didn't expect many people to show up. Their goal was about 160, 200 people all over the world, because that's how big they thought they were. 9,000 people showed up. And many of them were wearing the Guy Fawkes mask, because it was from the movie V for Vendetta, which stood for fighting against the government. And it was in 2008 that they adopted the logo. Now, Anonymous has accomplished quite a lot of things. However, one example I want to use that shows how they made a huge difference politically was in Egypt in 2011. So the President Mubarak at the time was known for dealing with illegal tradings. He was corrupt in terms of keeping a lot of money for himself and his family. So then there were peaceful protests that were conducted in Egypt in which they would like a democracy and to re-elect a different government, because Mubarak has been in presidency during that time for well over 20 years, and no one challenged him to it. However, what they saw during live streams that Anonymous set up in Egypt was during the peaceful protest, the police force were killing people. They were beating people who did nothing wrong. These people just wanted freedom, and in return, this breaks hearts all over the world. Mubarak was under heavy criticism by people all over the world. People were sharing tweets about the situation, and that's one of the few coverages we got there. So what Mubarak decided to do was to shut down the internet in Egypt. Then all of a sudden, it was silence. No one knew what was happening in Egypt. No one knows if any more people are dying in Egypt. Communication was gone. However, Anonymous did not just stand by. They were well invested in this issue. They cared about the people there. So what they did, they created a care package with the help of other online communities. It had a lot of documents, such as how to survive a gas bomb. Also, how to set up your own internet connection. Because of these help from these online communities, what happened was that they slowly were able to create feeds and more information back onto the internet. They had access to the internet again to communicate with the rest of the world. And not long after that, Mubarak was overthrown, and the protest was a victory. Once again, democracy was reinstated into Egypt. Now, I've mentioned a lot of online communities. I've talked a lot about how they made these differences. For example, how Anonymous brought political differences in this world. How Wikipedia was able to beat the encyclopedia in terms of number of entries and information. How Bitcoin is the most valuable currency right now. These are all non-existent things. They're not tangible. They don't truly exist in the real world. And yet, they create bigger differences in our world today than some of our tangible things. Why, some people might ask. First of all, the internet, what it was able to do was to bring people from all over the world together. Their ideas are connected together. And we do not even know who these people are. We do not judge them for where they're from. We do not judge them for what their skin color is. We don't judge them for their beliefs. We simply create groups where everyone can agree on one thing and make a difference. If we are going into a globalized world where we want to approach globalization in the most effective way possible, we should look up to these online communities as our role models. Because if online communities that don't even exist in the physical world can create such big changes, what could we do in the physical world? Have we just forgotten about our differences? And that is why the online community creates a huge impact in our global world today. And we should start to recognize them, because without them, where would we be today? Thank you.